So I do have over 4 decades at this and getting really tired. But this is my passion. This is what I like to do. I think the capture side of the industry doesn't get enough credit, because the one thing he didn't say in his presentation is when you're looking at a complete ECM solution, you look at this and you look at how people are going to do things, the one thing that's always overlooked is how do you capture all this data? And the capture side ends up being the only truly consistent cost item. It is a lot of work to get the documents into the system. So I've dedicated my whole life, 42 years in this industry, to try to make it better, simpler, easier. And with that, I've been with a couple of different companies. I was a design engineer at one point. We actually scanned. You say, how did that happen in 1972? Because none of this stuff existed back then. But there was the good old microfilm days, where we were filming all of the documents, trying to get them out of the cabinets into rolls. Then there was the ability to assist a lookup on the microfilm via computer-assisted retrieval. And then one of my jobs early on was working with a company that had developed a device that could actually scan the microfilm image. And the output of that scan was something called a tagged image file format. It's a TIFF image. Today, everybody knows what a TIFF image is. When I was evangelizing this solution, people had no idea what a TIFF image was, and for good reason. The only thing you could do with the TIFF image in those days was print it out. There was no place to look at it. So way back when I walked through a show one time and I saw the Microsoft Windows, like, what is that? What is that product? It's not a DOS-based product. And it was at that point in time I realized that the image that we were capturing by scanning film could then be viewed in a Microsoft Windows environment. So now you can see it on a screen. And then fast forward, thousands of ECM solutions and scanners. I was telling somebody last night, the first scanner, I was a Fujitsu guy. The first Fujitsu scanner I sold was about the size of this table and about this big, and it cost $60,000. And it did about 12 pages a minute. So think about where we've come there. So anyway, I have a ton of slides here, and I'm going to forewarn you that I'm going to go quickly because I'm not a real slide proponent, but there's only one way to get through this. So let's start here. If there's time at the end, I've got a couple of demos. If we don't have time, you can seek me out. I'm easy to spot, and I'll give you those demos privately. And any questions as a follow-up, by all means. So I'm Tom Hoffman. I'm National Channel Manager, and I live in Rhode Island, so I made the trip in yesterday. And I work directly for Mr. Premer. Actually, I got a couple of bosses, but Bill did a good job this morning talking about product. I like this visual slide because it's kind of a high level. And what we look at here is what we call centralized production scanning. So in many environments, there is a central location where we've got these high-speed scanners that sit in an environment and do all of the scanning. So paper comes in from mail sources, from any different sources, departmental sources, and is scanned. A bunch of years ago, what became really popular was the distributed scanning model, where we had the ability to have desktop scanners in a network environment, sometimes remote, but in this case, this slide shows remote as being actually disconnected. So you're not even on the network, you're not even on the LAN, you're actually coming in through some other methodology. But this gives you some idea of all of the different ways, and I like the picture because it just really gives a nice overview. When we get down to it, we're scanning paper documents via the document imaging or a faxing routine, or we're integrating with the MFPs, which is really a big thing today. Importing electronic documents, PDFs, Words, Excels, HTMLs. There's nothing we can't ingest at this point, really. And if you look at some of the other components, we'll get into that later, but it's about extraction and validation and routing, storing, searching, and delivering. I thought it was interesting to look inside of the modules. Bill said there's over 200 modules in the ARM-based product line. 13 of those modules are specifically geared towards ingestion of documentation, whether it's production document imaging or desktop or front office or express scanning. So the whole point here is there are a myriad of ways to get images from where they reside or where they're being worked on into the system. And again, I like the visual thing. It's the same with the judge. Again, it's the eye thing. So when I can see big pictures, I like that a lot. So this is just another high-level look at all of the different ways that we can get paper or images into the on-base document management repository. This is a very busy slide, but I'm going to leave it up here for a minute. I won't read it to you, but I think it's important to understand the processes. And those of you who are in this business understand that there's the capture piece. It's the pure capturing of documents using either Twain or ISIS drivers or forensic Kofax, doing batch scanning, QA, rescans, imprinter support, MFP support, importing, which is big these days because we import images from emails and from websites and from different downloads. However we can get those images into a repository, we can point to those directories, we can pull those directories and pull that information in. Then there's the whole process, which is the image enhancement, the annotation, all of the rotation, anything you do there, despeckling and deskewing. And then where my life has really evolved is in the area of data extraction. So we're looking at barcodes, autofills, OCR, ICR. Is anybody using Highland's advanced capture, on-base advanced capture now? Ah, good. All right. So you're doing something. You know, somehow you're getting those images in. But I think it's important to have the extraction capabilities and the data validation capabilities, which really make the work part of this, the data entry part, much easier to do because we have key from image, point and click indexing, verify matching, lookups and validations, but most importantly, we can go back to databases or tables and look to see whether the information that we're actually OCRing is valid based on something that exists in the table or in a database. And that's key because the data that's that you see in the database is typically 100% accurate, and that way it validates against what the OCR engine pulls up and does some checking there. And of course we store the images and then export those to any number of locations. In today's world we're actually probably advancing, you'll see this later in a slide, but we're actually able to take an EDI transmission as an input, create a temporary image, do the data extraction, and then output it again as an EDI. Somebody should say, well, why would you do that? Because it's coming in EDI. It's because what we're finding is the rules and the validations that we run in OCR are so powerful that the information that we're taking from the scanned image is actually more accurate than the EDI information that's coming in, and we're not applying, or we don't have the capability of applying the same rules to that data. So we create that image, run it through, and then apply the same rules. It makes for same data moving downstream, because what we know is that bad data moved downstream is very difficult and very expensive, so you want to catch it up front. And just some, I think the original title of this presentation had to do with the myth of the cost of data capture, but there's no myth. I mean, data capture is not inexpensive, but what we do here based on the lower total cost of ownership by using an advanced capture solution from the same vendor as your ECM solution. All right, so I think it makes a lot of sense here because the training is easier, it's minimal. It's already integrated, so it is built to work with the on-base product right out of the box. And for me, I keep telling my son, who thinks he wants to go into sales, that I said, if you know nothing else about life, understand and study return on investment. Because return on investment is what all of this is about. And I can tell you in 42 years, I have never sold a data capture solution that did not pay for itself. Because otherwise, why would people buy it? They don't wake up in the morning and go, hey, I think I'm going to buy some data capture. You really have to show how it pays for itself. And in this case, leveraging your existing on-base investment is a good thing. And I think the scalability factor is really big because advanced capture can scale easily across the entire enterprise. And rapid deployment. It's pretty much a plug and play. Some of the benefits of the on-base capture solution, the single solution vendor, leveraging that support integration. So if you think about ImageSoft and you think about Highland, the fact that it would be the same companies doing the same work with the same product. And as much as we love all of our third-party partners, I think there's just a lot to be said for working with a good trusted vendor to help you through all of those processes. And tightly integrated, I can't overemphasize. I think Judge Foster, if he said, I think it was number 2 on his list, to make sure that those items that you're looking to purchase can be or are already easily integrated with the products that you have, because integration is the key. Because if you've got a product that's doing something and it doesn't talk to the other products, then you pretty much lost the battle there. And maximizing your investment, obviously. some of the business problems, which you can take back, and I think they're going to make all these slides available to everybody that attends, but manual data indexing is difficult because you have the ability to make so many mistakes, and I see a lot of people doing single entry, double entry. It just goes on and on and on. So we really need to minimize that as much as possible, and I think all of the technology pieces that we have, the advanced capture with all of its features and functionalities that you'll see, really helps to eliminate the mistakes that can be made in manual indexing. And it gives them the opportunity to focus on more important things. I spend a lot of my time in the world of accounts payable. And what we find interviewing those folks is there's always going to be problems, but the managers of accounts payable departments are simply asking that we allow their clerks to work on those things that are important, the exceptions, the true exceptions. I ordered 1,000, they shipped 100, and what do I do with that? It's not about the data entry piece. It's about let me work on those things that are really important to me. And it's all about process improvement, faster transactions and cycle times and customer service. This is a pretty nice slide because it shows the capabilities of the advanced capture product from Hyland and its ability to look at OCR, which is optical character recognition. That's what's used to look at the machine print. So if it's coming in a machine printed font, we use optical character recognition to read that information and do the checking. If it's ICR, which stands for Intelligent Character Recognition, that's where we have engines that look at the hand print, typically in constraint boxes like that. And the boxes are simply there to help people like me actually do it a straight line and get it somewhat separated, because once they start to run together, it's like pretty impossible to figure out what they are. The optical mark recognition is the X's or the checks or the radio buttons that people fill in, yes, no's, choices, multiple choices. Signature detection, and I think in our space, because I suppose there's a couple of folks out there that can actually read a script, but in our world, which is more of the production side, more of the data entry side, we've decided to just give our operators the ability to determine whether there is or is not a signature. So we present it as, it all has to do with pixelation. Is there something in that block? And if so, present it to the operator so that they can look at it, see it, and make an intelligent decision. And then line item distraction, that's pretty funny. So line item extraction is the latest of the technologies, which allows us to do, easiest way to describe it is a columnar look. So we're looking at rows and columns of data and pulling that information back. A little more on that later. So in this document, sort of showing all of those things, I'll just let you read it. It's the top 10 challenges to data accuracy. And you can just go through and see the highlighted areas, and whether we're looking at counties or mark sense or yes, or looking at different values, and that would be the validation. So we're looking at something on one page and comparing it to something on another page completely, and whether the document was actually signed or not. So this is the more exciting part for me. So that was the advanced capture component, and I think it's a wonderful product, and it is an easy add-on to your on-base solution. It's got a singular price point, comes in as a server, it can be deployed enterprise-wide, very powerful. I define it like this. If you're looking to do indexing into the on-base system, there's no better, hello, we have a column between us, sorry. The on-base advanced capture gives you the ability to do the indexing. It is directly integrated into the product, and that's really its strongest feature set. That is what it's for. So eliminating manual data entry, indexing information to be stored and retrieved from the on-base system. If you heard Bill in the opening session talk about the acquisition of AnyDoc, I think that took place on about March 1st of this last year, so it's only a few months old. But there's been a partnership between AnyDoc and Hyland for probably as long as the two companies have been in existence. We had the same partners, we go after the same space, and we at AnyDoc, I'm an AnyDoc acquisition, we at AnyDoc had the product that allowed us to do a lot of things that the advanced capture product doesn't provide. It was never intended to provide, so it's not a mistake, it was by choice. The AnyDoc solution provides a couple of things. Standalone capture, which means that you can purchase the AnyDoc solution, now a Hyland solution, to do standalone data capture, so it doesn't have to talk to an on-base solution. The key, though, in the acquisition was our ability to truly do line item detail extraction, which is a very, very powerful tool. That same technology, I'm going to show you a little bit of that, the same technology allows us to do what we call document classification. And document classification in the simplest form. My friend from OPEX is downstairs, so consider one of his large devices that scans at an extraordinarily high rate of speed. He's pushing through all of these documents. You can enter data before you scan. You can allow the OPEX to extract certain amounts of data from as it goes through that process. What we do is take that data that's coming off of that scanner, and without patch pages, without separator sheets, without barcodes, everybody should be going, yeah, we do one of those because you really have to. We take a look at the document and we identify its document type based on our own technology. So in a broad sense, it's sort of a mailroom application that allows for the scanning and identification of documents that are then put into an electronic folder, whether they're invoices or court documents or correspondence or whatever they are, HR documents. They all now store electronically, and if there's something that needs to be done with those documents, then that session is spawned automatically. So we really do automate that process. So I skipped the whole slide and I went like 10 slides ahead, but it just, I get excited about it because, like I said, this is my passion. So it's a much wider range of capture capability. We now really sort of finalize the whole Highland offering to be able to compete at any level. I think the teams are, I've got 40 years, my boss has 25 years, something wrong with that picture, but all of us have been around a very long time. And there's definitely a development roadmap. So even though we are integrated already, we have the ability through APIs to talk and exchange data. We're going to really tightly integrate those. Okay, I think I'm doing fine. So the AnyDoc, a Highland software solution product suite is as follows. There's Capture It, InfiniWorks, OCR for AnyDoc, Exchange It, Deposit It, and then a Manage It solution. Okay. We really have never looked at ourselves as a maker of product or a maker of modules. We're a solutions-based company. So from my perspective, all of these pieces allow us to put together a solution that is tailored to a certain need. It's just what we do. I'll give you an example. Capture It. All right, so again, I don't like reading slides, so you can just sort of peek at it. I'll just talk about it. We developed Capture It years ago, because in the beginning, 24 years ago with AnyDoc, there was really no capture tool. We were the data lifting element, so we did the data extraction and the output of information. So we were working with our friends at Kofax and Kodak and Fujit, whoever was having, providing the scanned image, we would work with it. Our clients came to us, very, very much like Highland, same mindset. Our clients came to us and said, boy, it'd be nice if you guys had your own capture product. So we went ahead and developed the product, but we put two things in mind. Number one, two important things. It's a great capture product, but so are all the other products. They all do the same thing. Despeckle, deskew, straighten them up, clean it up, make it look good, give you the ability to rescan, quality control. But when we built Capture, we provided the ability for the Capture It solution to reside locally, which is right next to the desktop, or on a network, or over the internet, or wherever the location would be. So a very distributed capture model so that a low-cost client can be out in, doesn't matter, most of my clients have 50 or 60 locations that are scanning across the country. So being able to be remote was key. As important as that was the ability to dialogue with remember back to slide one, the centralized database. So we were setting the criteria for where this image was going to go at the time of scan. So it would be scanned, go to the OCR for AnyDoc engine, data would be extracted, and because we had that connection, there's a piece that is called verify. So if somebody needed to do a verification of the data that was extracted, they could do it at central location, and that's fine, that works really well. But suppose just for a moment that the knowledge worker of the image that was scanned is remote, and so far remote that they're the only ones that have the sort of the localized knowledge of the document. We gave them the ability to see the verification, come back to the same person that scanned it, validate the data, then it goes back to the server. So there's a lot more in the connectivity between capture and OCR for AnyDoc than meets the eye. And we kept it low cost. So I think that was a real winner for us, and we've had that for a number of years. Some of the key technology features, the ability to read barcodes or patch codes if they're there, batch indexing via prompts, tables, barcodes, all sorts of stuff. VB object, like we care about that. But the thing is, there is the ability to do VB scripting should you need it. The AnyDoc solution, very, very similar to the OnBase solution, is pretty much GUI based. So what that means is it's a fairly complex product, but it's complex only in the sense that it includes everything in the product. It's all GUI based. So with a little bit of training, the ownership level is really extraordinarily high because you can do most everything that you want by yourself. Okay, so InfiniWorks, I don't like the name, but wasn't my decision. It came to me. I walked over here this morning and my knees are killing me. So we came up with a product called InfiniWorks, and it is also a capture product, but it is a workflow capture component. And what's important about InfiniWorks, well, let me just go to the next slide. It gives us the ability to do the following things. The high-end classification that I was talking about, and you'll see a picture because I won't go into how we put it together because it's a tool-based product, but it gives us the ability to identify documents based on the image, based on text contained within the image, keywords contained within that text that's on the image, running algorithms against a set of keywords and data words. It's pretty crazy. And in the end, Content Analyst, or what we do there with the Content Analyst is, what's a best description? It's a semantic text searching tool. So what it gives us the ability to do is look at correspondence. Correspondence comes in. We really can't determine what it is other than it's a letter with a bunch of characters on it, right? So rather than just store it as correspondence, we run it through Content Analyst. And Content Analyst will start to read that letter and build a logical library of elements or data words that it's finding in paragraph and in context. So if it's a letter of anger, if it's a letter of congratulations, if it's a letter that goes to HR, if it's a letter that has to do with a pharmaceutical something or another, if it's a court document and it has some particular words in it, we can say, okay, we know what you are, because we're going to tell the software one time, we know what that is. And every time the software sees that again, it will bucketize that document, put it in the same folder with like documents. So essentially, InfiniWorks gives us the ability to do that electronic mailroom. We also have some check processing capability. I don't know if it's of interest here, but what we do now is with many of our financial clients is we'll take the check and the remittance, and we break the check apart. So we have the check front, and we create a false back if there isn't a back. We do the ability to sign the back. But more importantly, we take the remits and all of those remit statements. There could be one remit on one page. I mean, we'll do that fine. But we can take a single check and apply it against hundreds of pages of remittance data, and there's virtually no data entry required. It's an amazing product because when you go into an AR department and you see 100 people heads down, you ask the question, what are you doing? Well, we're doing data entry from the line item, and they literally got the old markers and they go down and we do all of that electronically. It's very easy to validate and it's extremely quick. So the last thing we do, actually there's many things, but one of the most important things we do with the InfiniWorks piece is the email processing. So we have a tool built in InfiniWorks that allows us to monitor the Outlook email, or whatever email, but Outlook is what I have here. And because a lot of my clients have documents that come in via email, right? So you could manually open the document, scan it, drag it into a folder, save it, or you could print it. A lot of my clients were printing, scanning, don't do that. What we'll do is go in and extract the document, or the multi-page document, or the multi-documents within the multi-page document, and whether they're TIFFs or PowerPoints or Words, we don't really care what that is. We'll also take information out of the email subject line, because a lot of times there's important data there. And what we've seen, particularly in accounting, again, I love this when the actual invoice is in the body of the email. So, okay, if that's what works for them, that's what works. So we'll extract all of that as well, and we do it automatically, and again, feed it back to the back-end system. I tried to just come up with some. I could be way off on some of these document types, but we would easily be able to classify judgments, motions, requests for continuance, proposed orders, summons, complaints, any other document. So we train the InfiniWorks product to recognize what a document is. We create that library of trained documents, and from that point further, when the system sees the document, it does it automatically. Okay, bear with me. It's a little technical, and it's probably way too small. But this is just the palette of a workflow, and I know I can't read this, so no point in even trying to describe it. So bigger characters allow me to say, yeah, that's the workflow platform, so it is a blank, and we drag tools from over on the right-hand side. Those are all the tool sets, and we drag them over and just connect them, and we just connect the pieces we want to do. And in this case, we're importing, we're exporting, we're classifying, we're reorganizing the pages, so there's any number of things we can do. And then there's a whole list of tools. There's probably 150 tools in that tool set that allow us to do all these crazy things like the Check 21. We can create the cash letter, send it to the bank automatically. You know, so there's all these things we can do. And it's all based on the parameters. But again, it's a GUI. So we do this without programming. And I don't know that, I did hear that conversation this morning about IT, but we require no programming per se. You know, it's all GUI based, so it's just a matter of training and understanding. And we run a trace audit. Nobody cares about that. Just to give you an idea, I pulled up a, this is one I did for medical records. So we've got the patient document on the right-hand side, and then we've got the pages and all these different things on the left. And I think I've highlighted, yeah. So you've got all the pages, you know, lab reports, diagnostic reports, EKGs. There's the page types, if you will. But here's the match rules, and I think this is really important. If you can see this down here. We have the diagnostic reports, and we say how we're looking at that document. Here we're looking at the full page. And here we're looking at a full page plus a keyword search that we're doing on that document to identify it. All right, so this is crazy. This is so much easier. For Roga, I can actually see this. So image classification matched to a library of images. So in other words, what I'm saying is when we see images like this, or like any images, it doesn't matter. The software actually takes it's a snapshot. You know, it's a footprint of that image, and it recognizes what it is. So the next time it sees an image that looks like this or this or this, it will know exactly what that image is and put it in the right folder. Pretty powerful stuff. So text-based, we can do keyword search, comparisons, or search an entire page by region. So in other words, I could look at this entire page and look for, because again, these are patient records. We took out all the crazy stuff. We can look for certain words. If we know for a fact that the words we're looking for are contained in a region of the document, we just help the software out a little bit by saying, here, you know, go look there first to make sure that you can see it. And conceptual classification is just a mind blower because I spent a couple of years working with a text analysis company, so I know the power of this kind of product. And there's virtually nothing. If we can read it, if we can OCR it and read it, we can do a contextual search on it and determine what it is and remember that and do the same thing over and over again. Very powerful. I'll tell you how I noticed it first. I was in a bank in Ohio, and I walked into a room, and there were probably 24 people, men, women, kids, walking around with documents, and they had huge tables set up, and they were going pile. They'd look at pile. I said, well, I have software that does. I have software that can do that. You know, you guys don't need to be walking around. You just scan the stuff. I said, what do you do with it after you've sorted it? We take it to the scanner. I went, no. I said, scan it first. Let me sort it electronically. So the comment I always get back is, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, and the lady's like, and was a lady. I get a lot of heat from females, so my wife included. She's looking at the document. She goes, I'll prove it to you. She goes, okay, now I know what this is. She took it over to Pile. She goes, how would your software do that? I said, what'd you just do? She goes, I had to read this document until I figured out exactly what the content meant. And I went, that's that right there. We can do that. We really can do that. So you can literally repurpose or put those people to better use than sorting documents is my whole point. Anyway, and a key is the combination of technology. So we can not only do the contextual, We can do any number of those and/or technologies across the group to get it done. Always the manual exception. You need to do that. This is boring. I'm going to go right through that. So OCR for AnyDoc, which would be the product that was in the middle. It's sort of the flagship. It's the form processing product. And we take the scanned images and we apply character recognition based on templates. Because people say, well, why do you need templates? Well, why wouldn't you? If a template fits, it's certainly the most cost-effective way to do the data extraction. And again, we have the similar phases, import, quality assured, data extract, rules, application. So we apply rules against not only document sets, but individual pieces of criteria. We'll have a rule against a piece of data that says it must fit this format, or it always begins with an alphanumeric, or whatever it is we need to put there. We verify the data, and then we commit it. Here's the remittance I was talking about. So we take a look at some images, and we get the check and the remittance stub. Even if they're together, we digitally break them apart so that we can handle the check and do all of that reading, and then we put them back together again at the end. We can work with local capture, scanner capture. We work with all of our friends out there. Kofax feeds me images. Kodak feeds me images. Fujitsu feeds me images. OnBase feeds me images. It doesn't matter. We also can do the unstructured forms, which I'll show you in just a few minutes, and then classification. It's a lot of words. So this is an invoice, just as one example. And it's run through the product. We've done the data extraction, so I just wanted to give you a visual. So here's a snapshot of the image. And below here are the items that we've extracted from this particular invoice. So we look at PO number, vendor name, invoice number, invoice date, so on and so forth. That's the summary data that comes off that document. We also go right into the body of the invoice and extract the line item data. And again, I just want to make a separation point. What we do differently and why it was such a great acquisition for Highland to bring us into the picture is, although advanced capture, I showed you, does line item detail, what we do differently is once we extract the line item detail, we have the ability to go back to the originating database. It could be the vendor table, it could be the purchase order table, it could be a combination of all of those, it could be your SAP system, whatever you have. We'll go back and look at the table and immediately validate that PO did exist. That's it's utmost importance that purchase order did exist that created this invoice. But in addition, we'll start to look at the data. We'll compare what was on the original purchase order to what is on the invoice to make sure that what was ordered was actually shipped. And we do the math left to right, so we do the multiplication, we do the addition, we look at the numbers and make sure that every single thing is right. If something's wrong, we have the ability to give the operator the opportunity to make that correction, or we have the ability to push that up to a more supervisory role, to somebody to make a larger decision. Anyway, lots of rules and dates, none of which you need to remember. Exchange it. I kind of like this product. It doesn't get a lot of play, but I think it's important because it is our graphical user interface based tool that allows us to take the source of information. The source of information in this case would be the originally scanned image in whatever format you need to store it, all of the data that we've extracted from it, and match that to the destination. Now, we're hoping that the destination is into an OnBase repository. So you've got the image and some index criteria going into OnBase. However, you may also have, and this is another separate, this is what Highland's never been able to accomplish. We can not only send the information to the Highland repository, the OnBase repository, we can also send it to your financial system. So we're sending the image if it's required for storage, and all of the line item data that we've extracted, so that it moves right off into the ERP system, right off into the financials. And that's hugely important. We also can output all your 837, 835, all the EDI files. Okay, you can just read this. We interface with pretty much everything that's out there. After 24 years, we've done it all. So a little bit, I got about 10 minutes here, so a little bit on solutions. We got claim, invoice, remit, EOB, patient records. There's nothing we haven't touched, nothing we haven't done, and we'll apply a forms-based technology or an algorithmic-based technology, which is the unstructured stuff where there is no form, and we'll go from there. So accounts receivable we talked about, that's the check and the remittance. In this case, we could simply take the check, read the micro number, read all the car alarm number, read everything that's on there, and then also extract all the information from the remittance. We'll automatically break them up if they're multi-page. We'll put them all back together again in the end. Again, I'm not going to bore you with this. It's just that we go through that InfiniWorks product to be able to extract all of this really relevant information. And it really only becomes, let's go here. I'm clicking, you know what's going to happen. I've clicked like 4 times. It's going to blue blue. Well, let's try again. That is not me. Oh, it so doesn't like this. So let's pass that whole thing. Yes. Okay, so I'll go back to the remit for a second. It did all of those things. You know, that's a technology there, that's PowerPoint. Here's the key thing to remember about what we do that would be very useful in government applications particularly, is that we have thousands of vendors, maybe hundreds of thousands of constituents, all these different doc types. We have the ability to look for this, what we call common data. And POs are okay, or invoices are okay because everybody understands what they are. So it's an easy analogy. If there's something on the document that is common in nature, it does not have to be common in location. If it was always in the same location, you'd build a cheaper template and just extract it, but that's not what's happening today. What's happening today is we build a single, I don't want to call it an algorithm, but it is. It's an algorithm that allows us to take all of the vendors, all of the invoices, all of the data, and put them all into one big funnel. We don't care. And 1 or 2 sets of algorithms will allow us to extract all of the data from all of those documents without a template. It's key, because if you're managing templates, you know it's a real problem when they get into the hundreds of thousands. And we're capturing all the data we talked about before, I talked about. No need to be redundant there. And then we show the ability to extract the data, do the line items. We balance the information. It's all the things I talked about. So with the remaining few minutes, I can do a couple of things, but I wanted to give time for Q&A. I wanted to open the floor for thoughts, ideas, issues, questions. Anybody have any questions? Oh, thank you.